of course, we've got Alan Quinlan here in studio with us. Good morning.
Morning, Maura. Owen. How are you? Very good, thanks.
Looking forward to the weekend?
Yeah, I am. I'm hoping for a positive, upbeat result, hopefully. A win will do. A good performance would be would kind of top it off, but it's going to be tricky. It's not going to be easy. France will certainly they'll certainly take a lot from the performance against Scotland the last day. So we'll see if they can switch it on in Dublin and trouble Ireland.
The market was putting the spread at 16 points earlier in the week, which seems to me to be crazy.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I think France, it'll be quite physical. They have a big pack of forwards. Bastareaud in the centre, very difficult to stop. You have to have a strategy to try and keep the ball away from him and get in his face. So Dupont and Intermac offer him something different. And when Toulouse came to Dublin in January, I thought Toulouse have a real chance of maybe it was going to be a really tight game, and Leinster blew them away with missing a lot of players. So it'll be a test for Dupont and Intermac away from home, and if they go well, France will play well. But it's an interesting one. I expect Ireland to be better. I hope they're better anyway.
We have live from Christchurch now as well. This is my Eurovision moment. I've always wanted to say this. It's Dublin calling into Ronan O'Gara. He's live from Christchurch. It's 10 o'clock at night there now. And I suppose I should be saying good evening, not good morning. Talking about France there, what are you expecting?
Hi, Maura Tressa. How are you, lads?
Good.
How are you, Quinny?
We're good. Your phone was a bit quiet this week, Rod. You were kind of, not really connecting with me, showing me any love. So you're on a yellow card.
Did you send him a happy birthday message yesterday, Alan?
Oh, I didn't. Oh, Jesus.
Happy belated birthday.
Oh,
I better say nothing. So, and I'm godfather of his little fella as well. I forget his birthday too. So
it's no wonder the phone went quiet.
I'm back in my box.
Well done. Good work off the ball. I like it. Big game, yeah. I'm looking forward to it because I think having spent 5 years in France, their psyche is very different to any other, I think, sporting psyche I've been involved in. And the fact that all of a sudden now you kind of nearly think that France are the team that have 20 out of 22 victories, and Ireland are the team that have had one victory in their last 7 or 8 games, judging by some of the, I suppose, outpourings coming out of the French camp this week. But they are a team that can kind of derive confidence from a day's one day's performance like they did against Scotland. I thought they were quite good actually against Scotland. So I actually think weather conditions will be interesting. I think if it's a dry ball, France have a far better chance. I think if it was wet, I don't think their discipline is anywhere near good enough around offside line, that half metre that's needed around the ruck in terms of for big moments. And also, I think Ireland's handling will be better. But as Quinny said to them, they have a physical pack. I think their midfield is interesting. Which I think Intermac is smart. I think he'll be. I think there's a lovely foil between Bastareaud and Ficou, and Penaud's an aggressive runner, and obviously 4 Toulouse guys. That's I think their ray of hope, the fact that these guys are playing for a confident club, transferring that to test level, and hoping to make an impact in probably a difficult stadium for the French, because the French have great time for the Irish. I think going back a number of years, I think they've been very impressed with, I suppose, how Ireland have been building their consistency levels and their way of playing the game, which France I don't think have the mental discipline for.
It's funny you mention the mental discipline, because you're the second Irishman I've heard this week talk about how the French psyche or psychology is very different to ours. Bernard Jackman was speaking as well, and he was saying that they're different. It's not better or worse, he was saying, but they're different. Where do you think that kind of nearly Gallic indifference comes from?
I actually think an awful lot of it probably would be to do with, I think their clubs, they wouldn't have, I would suppose, a caring environment like potentially the one I played in Munster. I think we had a really, really tight group knit of players that played for each other. With France, with the money involved in the club game, the turnover, you could have between, in some cases it's not abnormal to have maybe 15 or 20 players leaving a dressing room every season. So how do you actually become close? How do you play for the guy next year? While in our day, for myself and Quinny in the Munster team, probably 2000, it was probably, if you had even 3 or 4 squad players leaving, it was a tearful farewell dinner at the end of the year. While in France, it's very hard for these guys to have that, I suppose, emotional bond between them, because essentially the stats are great, but you can't measure actually how quickly you can get up off the ground when you tackle a guy. You can, but you'd need a good statistician in terms of, you know what I mean, a stop clock on every guy. The little things like that are very hard to calculate mean an awful lot if you repeatedly do it. But I think that's not to say the French guys won't buy in. I think they crave a bit of detail in their game at this stage. They have a lot of really, I think, genuine players who want to get better and are seeking, I think, coaching of the highest level. So in that regard, it does make for a little bit of a fascinating, I suppose, contrast. But I summing up my response to your question, I would think it would be the fact that Irish players, I think the level of trust would be far deeper because it's built on a year in, year out kind of in the trenches mentality. When you are pushed and it's 78 minutes on the clock and it's a 6-point game, it becomes a mental game in that regard, as you say, like who's going to break first. And I think the more you care about someone, the less likely you are going to crack.
Rog, just on I was reading Olivier Magna this morning on the Indo, and he was talking about the optimism that Dupont, Intermac, Ramos has given the French team, and inconsistency and consistency, I suppose, has been a problem for him for a number of years. Do you think, looking in from the outside, that possibly they can build a team around these guys and that they will trouble Ireland and maybe grow in confidence? Or is it too early for them because they were so bad against... You talk about detail as well. Parra came out after the game in Twickenham and said, well, we didn't know what we were doing, we had no structure. How can they switch it on so quickly? And will they?
Well, I think what happened there is probably with an old school model with a great tactician, strategist in Parra against the new brand of rugby player and athlete in Dupont, who came on and played off the cuff, Quinny, and actually brought probably 12 tackles in between. With the English players, obviously, all the English players were really good for 40 minutes, but Dupont was probably the player of the second half between the both teams. I think himself and Intermac, because you have a fair idea with this for playing with probably halfbacks over the years. It's only after 5 to 10 games they establish a relationship. Games 10 to 20, then you're kind of hoping to establish
and build on it.
Correct. And then after that, you have the possibility of excelling. So these guys, I think they're the right age, they're the right, I think, athletic ability. The only thing that I can't answer is because you don't work with them on a daily basis is what's their capacity to see space or what's their mental capacity in terms of, you know what I mean, their capacity to head in a swivel. Are they seeing the bigger picture, or is their vision closed? I think which essentially defines a great thing.
Yeah, should France stick with him? Just being the devil's advocate. If Sunday didn't go well for him, I think you know more about it, obviously. Should they try and build around these guys? Because that's I met some ex-French players in the game, when France played Scotland, and they were all saying Intermac, Dupont, they have to stay with him. I'm just interested to know.
Yeah, well, that's the combination. But I also too, like France, if you're looking to buy a 9 for the World Game, go to France. They have bucket loads of great 9s.
But they don't have 10s.
Exactly, because the 9 over there is looked as the 10. So when the kids are young, they want to be the kind of game controller, and the 9 is the game controller in France. So you look at Machinot, Saran, Dupont, Parra. You look at someone like Cockett, who's South African, but he's playing for France, and he's not there. But Cockett would have is a serious athlete, competitor, goal kicker. I would say he'd be in the Irish squad, and he's probably 5th or 6th choice in France. So, like, in terms of the raw ingredients, it's there. The 10s they're struggling with, yeah, most definitely. Tranduke is 32, and I'd say the horses bolted in that regard in terms of having a sustained charge at test level again. But Ramos, I think Ireland would probably potentially go after him. I think he's a good counter-attack in place, but I would say Ireland this week, I reckon, he's small enough, he's sprightly, he's got good feet in him, but I think defensively he could be exposed. But I like the 9, 10, 12, 13.
Okay.
I think Bastareaud will have his critics, but you know, Quinny, if you play if you have a smart 10 and you know how to use them, like, the reality is you got whatever it is, 130 kgs coming at you. It's very hard to stop.
Yeah, very difficult. And if their line-out functions, I think, because he loves that charge straight off the 9, off the back of line-outs and stuff like that. So that'll be kind of crucial, I think. And that physicality
especially
is
with
something.
the risk too, as you said, the risk too of, like, you got to tackle under the ball now. So the way of probably before was to trying to take him high, but anything there, you know, I think, especially in Ireland, how disciplined they are. But geez, if you go low and you get it wrong, you're going to get knocked out.
Yeah, you'd be well offside anyway if he was carrying the ball. You'd be sneaking about 4 or 5 yards by the time he gets it. But anyway.
No, I'd be playing a man on. I'm all over their 10.
Yeah.
Leave 12 for 12.
Yeah.
Ronan, Steve Hansen down there obviously made headlines this week in an Irish context, saying that whoever won the game in November was always going to be viewed as the #1 team in the world and everyone is going to chase them. And he reckons that we can't handle being the hunted rather than the hunter near the top of the world rankings. What do you make of those comments?
Yeah, I think it's the mind games have started. Obviously, he's still probably perturbed by what happened in November, so he's, I suppose, releasing the pressure on his own team, which is a smart move. But it is a different psychology, and I think the guys on the New Zealand team would refer to that every game they play, the opposition raise their performance by 20%, and I think there's a great challenge in being the champions, and it's a little bit like at club level in Super Rugby with the Crusaders. You know what I mean? A team season can be saved by beating the champions. So, what happened? Am I gone?
Your voice is still here. Oh, your vision is not. But we'll work away until we get Ronan's lovely visage back again. We'll throw in the French word there since it's a Sunday. So, Alan, I suppose the big question is, I've often wondered this, and you've been in a better position to answer this, is how do you prepare for a team like France when you never know what team? Yeah, because especially Joe Schmidt, he loves to be prepared.
I think you try, and any time I've ever been involved against France, you're very.
I think we've Raj back, so keep going with.
You're very, very aware that if they get a bit of time and space and they're allowed to play, they can be very flamboyant. And I think the first try that Intermac got against Scotland was a brilliant counter-attack, and Raj mentioned Ramos. If he kicked poorly to him, he wants to run back. He made a line break. Couple of rucks later, Intermac has gone under the post. So you're always conscious of that offloading game. Try and tag the ball, be physical with them, and stop them getting that flamboyant feel to a performance, and put them under pressure, because it's the old Jack Charlton statement, isn't it? Put them under pressure and force errors and mistakes, and hope then that, you know, when you have the ball, that you will kind of tire them out after 15, 20, 25 phases, that they just lose their shape a little bit. But I tell you, the first 5 phases, if you're soft with France, they can hurt you. They can physically get over the gain line, Bastareaud, Fiku, and they can do something off the cuff that's brilliant. You want to try and bring them into the double figures of having to attack or defend, because that way they lose a little bit of shape, and the fitness element comes into it, and the desire and all that kind of stuff. But if they get on the front foot, they're very dangerous.
Clearly, someone thinks that it can be a big win for Ireland at the weekend, and like we've seen recently, France got absolutely torn to shreds by England's kicking game. Like, there is the tendency here, Ronan, that if Ireland's kicking game is on song here, it's a huge, huge win for Ireland potentially.
Well, what do you mean by like huge win in terms?
Sorry,
of
a huge positive. A huge positive, I should say. I'm not
on the scoreline.
Are they looking for you, and maybe that Ronan's line?
His line is gone. He's not playing the broadband in New Zealand.
So obviously, when you look at the market, the fact that it was a 16-point handicap to me initially said this is absolutely crazy, because there's no way we can beat anybody by 16 points at the moment. But is that, I wonder, hooked on the idea that Ireland's halfbacks might finally find their feet? Because if they do, that is clearly one of the areas where we can desperately hurt them. Yeah,
I think it's too much to expect this really brilliant performance from Ireland on Sunday because of some of the troubles they have had, and maybe the resistance they've encountered. So France will be no different. They'll try and rattle Ireland physically and get at them, but we need to be better at our kicking game. Our kick chase, we need to contest in the air, we need to get a return from that. We probably need to kick tactically smarter to play in the opposition half, and because I think that's an area that's let us down. The turnovers, just being a little bit sloppy with the ball. And to be fair, these players are working incredibly hard, and the detail that Joe Schmidt has given them. And they just got into a little bit of a rut where they're getting massive pressure off who they play. So France will do the same. I think Ireland need to be fairly pragmatic on Sunday, and I'll be happy with that. Grind out a win, 18, 12, whatever, 5, 6 points. It could be better, and I would, in fairness, Ireland would probably have a trick or two up their sleeve with regard to some of those strike plays that they have. But any sort of a win for me on Sunday is a good win, because this is a good French side now, and there's a lot of good athletes on that side. Getting a big score against France, and they'll be so much better than they were in Twickenham. I think it's a different team now, and any sort of a win is a good win. And then go to Cardiff, and you can kind of take the shackles off a little bit in Cardiff and say, let's go for a 4th win in a championship. And you can imagine that scenario on Monday week if we're here chatting about, well, Ireland have won 4 games in a championship and they've had this kind of trauma and distress and pressure and anxiety, and we've got 4 wins. It'd be an incredible return. Even 3 wins would be good, with a really good performance in Wales and a good battle there, because it's a real 50-50 game, that one. So there's still a lot of positives they can gain out of it. I think they will be better. 13 of these guys started against England, so they'll not allow the same physicality and the same issues arise again.
I think we have Ronan back on again. Ronan, are you there?
I am.
Oh, brilliant. If you remember there, you're just about to jump down Owen Sheen's throat, if I can just remember correctly.
Yeah, no, I think they'll go about, I think Ireland will go about it differently at the weekend. I actually think they'll try and run France off their feet and do the damage in the last 15 minutes. So I think they're going to try and play high tempo ball and play for long periods of time. Dry game, I think they'll actually just try to physically put France in a position physically and mentally that they now wouldn't be able to handle. The top 14 is no practice ground for Test rugby. I suppose the jump in standard from what a lot of the club players in France are playing, and not many of their clubs are involved in top 14, or sorry, in European Cup. You have Toulouse obviously and Racing, but I think Ireland will look to go after them with a lot of tempo, in the fact that I think they're very, very different. France in Stade de France than France in the Aviva in Twickenham. I think they don't have the mental capacity to challenge Ireland in that regard. I think they'll try and hang in there, but if Ireland went to go, I agree with Owen. I think if Ireland got to 10 points, carnage could take place. That's if it's a dry day.
Has anybody seen the weather forecast?
I just checked it there now. There's going to be rain from about 12 to 2. They're not heavy showers, but there is rain, showers it's saying, and then from 3 o'clock it's just cloudy. It's going to be dry for the game, as regards it's not going to be raining for the game, but it'll be greasy, so a little bit windy and blustery now. So I want a job as a weatherman as well, Mar.
You'd be very good with heart. Shocked in the Gaeilge, we might get you a job on TG Cahir.
Jeez,
how's your Gaeilge, Ronan?
He was a good scholar in school, weren't you?
The sugar hunta. So you've got your English, you've got your Francais, and now you've got Gaeilge as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah, like it's we were just discussing here, it's also International Women's Day. We speak about Ireland, we go from tangent to tangent. Well,
Togan der Ashkody and Corkig.
And Ashkody Corkig.
Annie McCarthy.
And you doyle away.
No,
Oh, good Lord.
I loved it. I loved those speeches. Teddy Mack, wasn't it, in 1990?
What's your favourite Irish language speech? Do you remember? At the
speeches. I love when whoever...
probably Sean O'Halpine is going to say now.
He walks or Tomás O'Leary, didn't he? He had a good shuffle of the midriff, didn't he, for his speech when he lifted the minor cup. I love it. It's great, actually, that whoever walks up to Hogan, the stand, to lift the cup, I think it's a special day to be Irish that day, watching that. With the boys, they get the all the note, and they get the speech slipped to them. It's very... it's a great occasion, I think. I love watching it.
Well, I'm telling you, we've gone from weird tangents this morning. We spoke about the Irish language. We've spoken about Jersey Boys. Have you ever seen Jersey Boys, Ronan? The musical?
No, I don't do movies, would you believe? I'm full on rugby sport nerd.
Give us a prediction before Sunday, very briefly, because we want to move on to a real star and Serge Betson in a few minutes.
Thrown down.
I would say, I think I'm by 17 points.
Oh, good.
Wow.
I hope you're right.
We hope you're right too. Ronan, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
from
Rog.
Christchurch. Agus, ich was long ago.
We didn't get any chance to talk about the role of the
well, look, Ronan, if you're here and if you're willing to talk about it, I'll always happily talk about women's sport. We were talking about dadcast for daughters earlier, and I know you've a 10-year-old daughter. What are you doing? How are you showing your stripes?
Because actually, I forget your guest's name, but it wasn't the...
was it Mary O'Connor, perhaps?
No,
or Sarah Colgan?
She was nearest to Sarah Colgan. Her story really resonated with me about leaving the daughter off and going kind of harder on her son, wasn't it, to make him do it? Wasn't that?
That was it. That was Sarah,
Yeah, resume. And it's good now to hear that, because I would have fallen into that trap as well, because the boys play rugby in France, so it's a kind of a team sport. But Molly wants to play mixed rugby over here, my 10-year-old. So what do you say to that? Some boys would be full on tackling her. Jeez, it's a bit risky, isn't it?
At 10 years old, is it? Physically, is that much difference?
She's probably more physical than her dad was when he was 10.
So, what are you doing? Are you going to make sure that you don't fall into those kind of traps, Ronan? Because it's easily done.
No, it's good now, because, well, to be fair, Molly's mum, Jess, they do swimming, gymnastics, tennis, horse riding, and then over here it's great. They have kind of children's triathlons and duathlons, but you know what I mean. We don't push them too hard, but I think the actual benefits of sport, even at that age, is hugely important, isn't it? So everything in moderation, obviously, but we're trying to give them an appreciation, I suppose, of just how you feel better when you exercise, even at that age, and they'd agree with you, because it's I suppose about, you'd know more than anyone, I suppose, it's about shaping the brain at that age and creating good habits and good behaviours. So that's...
Well, look, I'd say she's probably in the right house for that kind of role modelling. Listen, Ronan, go mil mahagat. We'll let you get into the lab now. Agus, ich was long forward. And we'll get Sarah gone, hopefully. Alan, you're laughing away here.
I can't converse in Irish, I'm sorry with you.
It's all right, we won't hold it against you.
I know, yeah.
So, his prediction there, was it 17 points he was saying? What do you think?
Well, I don't know. It's hard. I'm just nervous about this. I think it's just that unpredictable stuff that we're talking about at the start. I think France could be very dangerous and very good. And if they can build on what they did in Paris the last day, well, it's a real tight game. If Ireland improve, which they're capable of doing for sure, and we've some world-class players on our side, and they haven't become bad players overnight, of course they could have a very dominant performance. But it's a real intriguing one. People are asking me, will we beat France? Will we beat France? I think we'll beat them. Going for a scoreline of that much, I wouldn't. I'd go for 8-10 points, and I think that's a good return for us. And like I say, tick the box, be pragmatic, be good, cut out the mistakes, play in the right areas, and of course scores could come. But I just think this is a better French. There's a better French group here, and they're going to be a bit robust, not porous like they were in Twickenham.
How do you think Sean Cronin's feeling right now?
I think Sean Cronin is he'll be disappointed. It's been a tough 2 weeks probably, because I watched his body language coming off the field, and whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's his fault or not, the hooker gets lumped with the blame when the line-out doesn't function well. And I've said it in commentary, and I've said it since. It's some of the line-outs that were lost, I think it was 4, and they were in crucial kind of areas. It wasn't all down to Sean Cronin. It was down to timing, lifting, guys getting the decisions not correct fully, slow movement. But he pays the price, and that's kind of the tag you have to take with you after the game. So he's a good character, and I think he will respond and bounce back. And I think it's how he responds now. To be fair to Rob Herring, who's been called in, he was brilliant for Ireland when he started, when he was involved in a tour in Australia. He was superb.
He deserves a chance.
Yeah, and maybe it's just keeping them all on their toes, I think, and having that involvement. And Niall Scannell is he number 2 now? Probably.